What's up, everybody? Gajewski here, back again with the Awesemo Fantasy channel. And today we are talking sleepers and busts ahead of the 2022 NFL season. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by Underdog Fantasy. And if you don't know Underdog, they have all sorts of contests available to you guys. They have best ball drafts, live drafts, pick 'em contests. And right now, they recently released their Best Ball Mania $1 million to first place best ball draft. Make sure to check that out. And if you want some free money, use the promo code Awesemo and you are going to get a match deposit bonus up to $100. So make sure to check that out. And again, that $1 million up top, do not pass that up. It is only $25 to enter. Fantastic tournament for you guys to check out. We're going breakouts and busts today. We're going to do one at each of the main skill position players. That's running back, receiver, and tight end. And we'll start with the running back position. We're going to kick this off with our breakout candidate, James Conner. Now, these are a little bit difficult to define. I am just going to define this as a player projected to outperform their ADP, average draft position. In a lot of drafts, you're seeing James Conner go outside the top 12 running backs, even outside the top 15 at times. Now, with James Conner, he's playing in Arizona. This team lost Chase Edmonds, and they did not replace Chase Edmonds with any sort of running back of consequence. They already had Eno Benjamin on the roster, and then they draft Keontae Ingram out of USC on day 3 with a late pick. So to me, it looks like James Conner is locked in feature back role here for Arizona. Last year, he had 202 carries, 752 rushing yards, and 15 touchdowns. We know he was playing that goal line role, which he will occupy again. But he sneakily had 37 receptions. And when you look at James Conner, in the games where Chase Edmonds did not play, he was seeing tons of receiving work. We look back throughout the latter half of the season, he had 5 catches, 3 catches, 5 catches, 2 catches, 9 catches, and then he followed up in week 17 with another 6 catches. This dude was a monster through the air, and that is a role I see him taking on an expanded workload during the 2022 regular season. Our bust at the running back position may come as a surprise to some. Again, this is just a player I project to underperform compared to their average draft position, and that's DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift is going to be in a timeshare with Jamal Williams. We saw that last year. This is a guy that only had 20 touches on 5 occasions, so he needs to get there with efficiency. Positively, he is a strong receiving back, so if you're playing things like PPR, even half-point PPR, don't downgrade him too much, but he's still not going to see a future back workload. He only had 151 carries last year, 617 rushing yards, 62 receptions are fine. But ultimately, to me, this comes down to what other running backs are available to me and who could maybe take over this kind of workload later in drafts. I think you can find plenty of timeshare backs, especially ones with this kind of pass catching upside. Later than DeAndre Swift, you can take stabs on players like J.K. Dobbins going down the list. You can take stabs on Travis Etienne, who has a strong pass catching profile. And even Chase Edmonds in Miami, who is a player with a very strong pass-catching skill set, going to an offense under Mike McDaniel, which has featured running backs throughout his tenure with San Francisco. Now, Edmonds does have some competition with Raheem Mostert, and the team signed Sony Michel to an undisclosed contract. That suggests to me that there's the potential for Sony Michel maybe even to get cut. He's a little elderly in his career. Raheem Mostert is 30 years old. But if you're looking for touches in the timeshare manner, and even just with pass-catching work, you can find players like DeAndre Swift later in drafts. So to me, I would rather pass on Swift at his current ADP and look later to players like Chase Edmonds, Breece Hall, players that I think could break out and have either more efficiency or more touches than DeAndre Swift overall. Going to the wide receiver position for our breakout, it is Jerry Jeudy of the Denver Broncos. Now, Jeudy played through injury through most of last year, had the high ankle sprain, finished with just 56 targets, turned that into 38 receptions for 467 yards. But the offense has undergone seismic changes. They change coach. They bring in Nathaniel Hackett from Green Bay, and they make the big trade from Russell Wilson. So we're expecting a huge step up in efficiency going from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson. Now, Jerry Jeudy has been fantastic on a very small sample to start his career. As a rookie, he put down 1.66 yards per route run. That's a predictive efficiency metric tracked by Pro Football Focus, and that improved to 1.85 as a sophomore. And that was playing through the ankle sprain. If you compare this to the career trajectory of a guy like CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy is basically on pace in terms of efficiency. Now it's on a much smaller sample. and it's coming through injury. So there is a chance here that Jerry Jeudy takes a massive step forward with the increased quarterback play, with the overall bill of health, ideally it being clean. But Jerry Jeudy has a massive ceiling in this Denver offense. He's a player I like inside the top 24 receivers and right around receiver 15. He should be more than easy to gather up there. The bust candidate at wide receiver is actually a player that formerly played with Russell Wilson in DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf last year finished with 129 targets. He turned that into 75 receptions, 967 yards, and 12 scores. Incredible scoring volume from DK Metcalf, but now he moves from Russell Wilson to Drew Lock. We just talked about the reduced efficiency that Jeudy experienced under Lock. And exacerbating matters, Seattle is a run-heavy team, and they run the fewest plays per game in the NFL. That is right. Even under Russell Wilson last year, this team was dead last in terms of tempo in the NFL. Now with Drew Lock under center, there is not room for any margin for this offense to get worse if we're talking DK Metcalf and maybe even Tyler Lockett, who's probably a bust candidate himself. Because of the physical profile, Metcalf still probably pops off for big games occasionally, but predicting those is going to be exceedingly difficult in what now appears to be a slow, run-heavy offense, quarterbacked by maybe even a quarterback outside the top 32 in terms of talent. Going to the tight end position, breakout candidate David Njoku. We're going pretty far down the list here with Njoku, but there's a lot to like. This is a player Cleveland decided to re-sign, and he's actually coming off his second best season with the Cleveland Browns. His best season occurred in 2018, but last year he put up he experienced 53 targets, turned that into 36 receptions, 475 yards, and 4 scores. Cleveland's an offense that loves to use 2 tight ends, and last year Austin Hooper was their number 1. He's now removed from the offense, leaving just Njoku and Harrison Bryant. Njoku played well ahead of Harrison Bryant throughout most of last year, and there was even a game where Austin Hooper missed due to injury, or maybe it was a COVID-19 absence, I don't recall, but Hooper was out of the lineup. David Njoku played 100% of the snaps, while Harrison Bryant played just 39%. David Njoku should step up now as the number 1 tight end in this offense, and he has a strong receiving profile, evidenced by what he put on the field last year. He's also a player Cleveland will occasionally use in the slot and out wide. So with reduced receiving competition in the tight end room and maybe Deshaun Watson coming in, we'll see about the suspension, David Njoku should be in line for a step forward. The bust candidate at the tight end position is going to be Mike Gesicki. Now, this is a player that's just suffering through a lot of offensive changes. We already talked about the change in coaching staff, but this is a team that also brought in plenty of pass catchers. They bring in Tyreek Hill. They already have Jalen Waddle. They bring in Cedric Wilson. Right now, Mike Gesicki is essentially playing the wide receiver position. If you look last year in terms of snaps, he played 828 snaps on the year, but only 99 of those occurred in line. That's about 80% of his plays coming out wider in the slot. With Cedric Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, unless they're running 4 wide every single play, which is not historically what a Mike McDaniel offense looks like, somebody's going to have to come off the field. And the first on capital they have in Hill, the first on capital they have in Waddle, the huge contract they have in Hill, the decent contract they put in Wilson, I just don't see how Mike Gesicki can continue with the 112 targets, 73 receptions, 780 yards he saw last year, all of which were career highs. So Mike Gesicki, love him as a player, but I think he is primed to take a step back in Miami this year. Let me know in the comment section what you think of these breakouts and busts. Let me know who your breakout, who your bust is ahead of the 2020 season. I am Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.